Mr. Obinna set on his journey and Amara was behind him secretly. Obinna didn't realize that he was being followed. After a short while, Obinna arrived home. He used his key to open the door and walked inside his house. Mrs. Amara then in the village of Ameke, there is a popular market called Nkwo. In that market, there lived a man called Mr. Obinna, who was a meat seller at Nkwo market. Ameke was a peaceful community until Mr. Obinna arrived. Obinna was a man in his middle 40s. He had no wife or children, so he lived alone. He sold the largest piece of meat for cheapest prices. Everyone in the village majorly buys from Mr. Obinna. He arrives at the market with bags of meat and he sells all of them before the day ends. This made other meat sellers in the market very envious of him, and at the same time, they were surprised. They wondered where he could get such quality of meat and sell at that cheap price. And the strangest fact about Mr. Obinna is what he does with his money. Obinna makes tons of bags of money from his meat sales, but he never eats good food or even wear clean or new clothes. With all the money he makes, he still wears rags, as in rags for someone that makes that kind of money as Mr. Obinna. This caught the attention of one other meat seller in the market called Mrs. Amara. Mrs. Amara knew that he makes a lot of money and was surprised at the way he takes care of himself. So, she was determined to find out what Mr. Obinna does with his money. At the close of the market one fateful day, Obinna packed up and set to head home. Meanwhile, Mrs. Amara had been waiting all the time so she could follow Mr. Obinna. Mr. Obinna set on his journey and Amara was behind him secretly. Obinna didn't realize that he was being followed. After a short while, Obinna arrived home. He used his key to open the door and walked inside his house. Mrs. Amara then began to peep the inside of Obinna's home through the outside window. Mrs. Amara looked inside the house and the house appeared to be smelling. Then Mr. Obinna walked up to a very big black pot. He opened it. I think I need to supply more meat because I'm running out of supply, Mr. Obinna said, and then he closed the pot. Mrs. Amara was curious to know what is inside that black pot. It could be that the pot is what is supplying him with so many meats, she said to herself. She waited for Mr. Obinna to step out of the room. Immediately he stepped out of the room, Mrs. Amara walked into the house and opened the pot. Hi guys, this is Onyi pleading with you to please support my channel by clicking on the subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. I have realized that most of my audience watch my videos and never subscribe. Please be a part of my success growth. Be a part of my growth and please support my channel by clicking on the subscribe button. Thank you. Let's go back to the story. Immediately she opened the pot, she heard Mr. Obinna shouting, "Who is there?" And she quickly ran back. She ran as fast as she could back to her own house, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe what she had just seen. The next day, she decided to keep a close eye on Mr. Obinna, hoping to uncover more about his strange behavior. The next day at the market, Mrs. Amara tried to act normal, but she couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. She kept glancing over at Mr. Obinna, who was busy selling his meat. He seemed to be in a good mood, smiling and chatting with customers as usual. As the day went on, Mrs. Amara couldn't help but feel more curious about what she had seen in Mr. Obinna's house. She knew she had to find out more, even if it means putting herself in danger. That evening, Mr. Obinna packed up his store and headed home. Mrs. Amara followed him again. This time, she was more careful, making sure to stay hidden in the shadows. When Mr. Obinna reached his house, Mrs. Amara watched from a distance as he went inside. She crept closer to the window and peered in. Obinna was in the kitchen, chopping up what looked like pieces of meat. She felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that this meat looks very strange, just like what she had seen yesterday. Suddenly, Obinna turned and looked directly at the window. Mrs. Amara ducked down quickly. Her heart was racing. Had he seen her? She thought to herself. She held her breath, praying that he had not seen her. After a few minutes, she dared to peek again. Obinna was no longer in the kitchen. She heard footsteps approaching the window and panicked. Without thinking, she ran away again, not stopping until she reached her house. Breathing heavily, she locked her door and sat down to think. She knew she had to tell someone about what she had seen. But who would believe her? Mr. Obinna was well liked by everyone. Who would she tell? Who would believe her story? And then she decided to confide in her best friend, Mrs. Nneka. The next day, she went to Mrs. Nneka and told her, "My friend, I am in a big problem. I am confused. You remember the meat seller, Mr. Obinna, at the market? I followed him to his house yesterday. You won't believe what my eyes saw. But who will I tell?" And Mrs. Nneka asked, "My friend, tell me, what did you see in Mr. Obinna's house?" And Mrs. Amara narrated everything she saw. Mrs. Nneka was shocked but agreed that they needed to find out more before going to the authorities. Together, they came up with a plan. They would take turns following Mr. Obinna and gathering evidences of his suspicious activities. Mrs. Amara would follow him one day and Mrs. Nneka the next day. For the next few days, they followed Obinna closely. They noticed that he always went to a particular place at night, but they couldn't summon the courage to follow him that night. Why would a man who was selling meat at the market always visit a particular place at night? They thought to themselves. So, one night, it was Mrs. Nneka's turn to follow Obinna. She watched as he left the market and headed home. She stayed hidden, keeping a safe distance. When Obinna entered his house, Mrs. Nneka quietly crept up to the window. She saw Obinna in the kitchen as usual, chopping up meat, but this time, he seemed to be talking to himself. She strained to hear what he was saying. "I must find another one soon," Obinna muttered. "The supply is running low again." Mrs. Nneka gasped. She quickly pulled out her phone and took a few pictures of Obinna with the meat. Then she hurried back to Mrs. Amara to share what she had found. Mrs. Amara and Mrs. Nneka knew they needed more concrete evidence before they could go to the authorities. They decided to set a trap for Obinna. The next day, Mrs. Nneka approached Obinna at the market. "Mr. Obinna," she said sweetly, "I've heard you have the best meat in town. I would like to place special order for a large amount of meat for a big family party." Obinna smiled. "Of course, Mrs. Nneka. How much do you need?" Mrs. Nneka gave him an amount that she knew would require him to restock his supply. "Can you have it ready by tomorrow evening?" "Absolutely," Obinna replied. "I will make sure it's the best meat you've ever had." That evening, Mrs. Amara and Mrs. Nneka followed Obinna again. As they suspected, he left his house late at night, carrying a large sack. They followed him to the outskirts of the village, where he disappeared into the woods. They waited for what felt like hours. Finally, Obinna emerged from the woods, dragging the heavy sack behind him. He made his way back to his house, and the two women watched as he entered. They knew they had to act fast. They called the police and told them everything. The police were skeptical at first, but Mrs. Nneka showed them the pictures she had taken, and they agreed to investigate. The next day, the police arrived at Obinna's house with a warrant. They knocked on the door, but there was no answer. They broke down the door and entered, finding the house empty. They searched the house thoroughly and found the big black pots in the parlor. Inside, they discovered the chopped-up remains of several bodies. The police were horrified and immediately called for backup. Meanwhile, Obinna was at the market selling his meat as usual. The police arrived and arrested him in front of everyone. The villagers were shocked and couldn't believe what they were seeing. Obinna was taken to the police station for questioning. At first, he denied everything, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. Eventually, he broke down and confessed to everything. He told the police that he had been killing people and selling their meat to the townspeople. He claimed that he was a very rich man in his own village and that the only way he could make money was selling human meats. That is why he's always looking dirty and rough, just so nobody will suspect. And then he will send the whole money to his wife and children in his own village. He claimed that he did it to make more money. The entire town was in shock as they listened to the details of these horrific acts. The families of the victims were devastated and the townspeople felt betrayed. Was sentenced to life in prison. The people were relieved that Obinna was behind bars, but the horror of his crimes will haunt them for a long time. They vowed to be more vigilant in the future and to support each other in times of needs. In the months following Obinna's arrest, the town slowly began to heal. Mrs. Amara and Mrs. Nneka were hailed as heroes for their bravery in uncovering the truth. The village of Ameke learned a valuable lesson about trust and vigilance. They realized that evil can sometimes hide behind a friendly face, and they vowed to always look out for one another. As for Obinna, he remained in prison, haunted by the ghost of his past and the weight of his crimes. He would never be able to undo the harm he had caused. Thank you so much for watching my video. My name is Onyi of Onyi Stories and Folktales, and please, if you haven't clicked on that subscribe button, please, I'm begging you, click on that subscribe button, turn on the notifications so when I post more interesting stories, you'll be the first to get them. I do not take your support for granted. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye bye.